Hey y'all, welcome back to Ascending with Ashley. I'm Ashley. I'm watching Peter's channel again, like I have been all week. But right now we're in Compton, and I wanted to get on here and talk about a little bit about my experience being in LA. So gang-wise, I wasn't in a gang. But the territories, so where Peter is right now, he's doing a documentary in Compton, and he's on the Crip side. So it's pretty well known that, like, well, I don't know, I've been like researching and was learning about gangs forever. I really like learning stuff. So I've watched tons of documentaries like about gangs for a long time, before I was ever in LA. And the person that I married was in the 80s, was a blood. And then I think he shared this on my channel. Then when he was in prison, he became part of the Black Guerrilla family, the BGF, which is all about unity within like things. But I want to share, because I didn't know a lot of this stuff until I was, there living it. But the Bloods and the Crips are all about community. They're all about protecting and serving the community. They're both acronyms too. I know the Crips is community something. Blood is, I don't know. I don't remember what the actual acronyms are. But they are acronyms, and I find that fascinating. And I also just wanted to talk a little bit about what it was like where we lived. So we didn't live in Compton, we lived in South LA, but we were right outside the boundaries of USC, and USC had like gentrified South LA like really bad, right? Like the college had just taken over, and so we did live in a Crip neighborhood, and baby daddy's cousin was a Crip. He's old, he's like old. But he was a Crip, and so he lived across the street from us. So we were on the corner, this black and white couple, right? And Dogon's an OG. He's old too. These motherfuckers are old, right? So these are all, who's ever active now is, younger. And so we lived right here, and then on the other side of the street was Mexican folks. And so the neighborhood, the hood that we lived in itself, and then there was like a high school, like a block away. And then on the other side of the high school was, what was it? What was the street? Was it MLK? No. Was it MLK? I don't know. It was a really busy street. So we lived like 2 blocks. I think was it MLK? Because like on the other side of MLK was like where the hood started, and then it was like USC, like right there. So, like, we lived, like, if you know anything about LA, Expo Park, we lived, like, right there. You can pick up the train on Expo. So we lived just a couple blocks from there. Anyway, all that to say is that I, as a white woman, minded my own fucking business. From day one, that's what, baby daddy and Top Snog told me, his cousin. Just, mind your biz. And I did. And then, there was a whole different scene in Skid Row, which is in actual downtown LA. But, but I think, I don't know, because I wasn't affiliated, I would walk past them, like, on my way to the dollar store. So, like, we were right here, and then there was, like, a block this way, the high school's that way. And then, like, the block this way, and then, like, 2 blocks that way, it was, like, this little shopping mart. There was a, laundromat, little donut shop, grocery store, Dollar Tree. It was a 99-cent store. But anyway, so I would like always go to the 99-cent store. And like I would do our laundry at the laundromat and shit. And so, while baby dad was at work, I would be home in the hood, by myself, chilling. And I want to say the things that I never ever felt scared, and this is all I want to say because I'm watching these guys in Compton, and they're just sharing what it's like, and there's beef between different groups and stuff. But I will say the most scared I ever felt was when there was a police presence. No joke. The guys were always, they would just, chill out. So I'd always have to walk past a group of folks, women and men, on my way. They knew me. We were there for a few years, so, you know, initially Dogon was like by my side, but then I got comfortable enough where I was, you know, hanging out by myself. I'd go to the bus stops by myself. I took the bus into downtown to do my mental health groups and shit. And I never had any fears or concerns. I was often, there were a couple times that people, you know, there was this one time on the bus that this chick came after me, because she just assumed I was a USC student, Uber driver too. I took an Uber, I think, to LA Can at one point. And the Uber driver assumed I was USC, right? And so I was on the other side of the cutoff, and so they were like, no. They thought I was part of the gentrification you know, I get it. I get it. I understood it. And so it opened up a lot of avenues for conversation and stuff. But like the guys in the hood, I was never ever worried for my safety. Ever. Like, and I think that's the thing. One of the guys just said in Compton, just stay in your lane, and you do that, you know. You just, you know, there was one woman across the kitty corner from us, a Mexican woman, who would just stand outside and like, you know, she was the surveillance of the neighborhood. And then like the Mexican houses were all like big families, right? They were living like intergenerationally, which was super cool. And we were in a duplex. And then his cousin was across the street in an apartment complex. So it was just like such an interesting hood within itself. There were these massive ass houses that were old from like back in the day, you know, 2-3 stories. Across the street, there's little duplexes. Across that street, there's apartment buildings, right? It was just like right there on our corner. And so I just wanted to share because I think that most of the time whenever we don't understand something, it like makes fear happen. But like backing up, I just, you know, the guys were always cool to me. The women too didn't have a problem with me, because I didn't make any problems. We did have experience because we had like this little fence that we shared with our neighbors, and like there was a lot of tagging on that fence, but it was all in like code, you know. I never understood what it was, and like the city came and painted it, you know, every few weeks. It would just keep getting tagged. And I know Dogon probably understood what they tagged, but I didn't. So I don't know. I don't know if there were, you know, Mexican members or whatever, but I do know that the Crips were there, and those are the ones that, like, I walked past them a lot on my way to the store or the laundromat or whatever, and they were all nice to me. You know, and a lot of the times if something happened to someone within their, community, they had a lot of altars. There would always be candles and stuff, you know. There were a few times where people had passed away. I don't know why. None of my business. And that's the main thing. It's none of your business. But I would walk past the altars, you know. There would be a fuck ton of candles and flowers and, you know, altars. They were, you know. But I just wanted to get out of share. And then in Skid Row, I was watching Peter's tour of Skid Row last week, and I think it's interesting. I never felt, it was probably because I was married to Baby Daddy. Like, he has a very big reputation. He's kind of, you know, he's well known in the streets, and so by affiliation, people just didn't really fuck with me or just left me alone or knew who I was with or who I associated with. But I never felt unsafe in Skid Row or in South LA. The only time I remember that I was super tripping was when there was a helicopter, because the pigs did that a lot, is they would just like circle like with a helicopter. And I remember I called my friend Sean. They lived on 50s and we were in the 40s. Blockwise, and I was like, dude, I'm like tripping, like this fucking helicopter is totally freaking me out, because it would just stay there, you know. And then like the police presence, again, I wasn't involved, it wasn't any of my business. I stayed out of everything. I would just walk to my store and buy my fucking arts and crafts stuff, and like the grocery store to get stuff, or I would just take a bus up to USC stuff, or go downtown. It was really, or the beach. I would always go to the beach. I will say that the only time that I felt racial like really bad racial what's the word, tension, was when I worked at Macy's in the Crenshaw mall. The other chicks that worked there were really mean to me, and I couldn't handle it. I hated that job so much. I only did that for like 3 months. I couldn't do it. It was horrible. But they were like younger girls, and so, you know, I was just trying to mind my own business. And yeah, that was the only time I really remember having a hard time being in that space, was with the other coworkers. But yeah, a couple times on the bus, people said shit to me. I remember that really vividly, because this chick was like, she was talking shit like from downtown all the way home. And because I was after my mental health group downtown, and she was talking shit to me, and I'm just like, whatever, you know. And then she was like absolutely baffled when I got off the bus where I did. I was like, so I was just like, you know, I never said anything to her. I think that's the thing, is just, I knew the situation. I was aware of my presence, where I was, just like Peter is, you know, being there. He just said, like, if I would have pulled up alone, like, there would have been issues. Like, you know, I was never out of line. Just stay in your lane. But just, and also just be respectful. I mean, that's some cultural shit that goes back like decades, you know. It's not a problem that needs to be fixed. It's a cultural way of life, and that's, you know, if you're not observing it, it's really has nothing to do with you. Leave them alone. And again, the only time I ever felt unsafe was when the police were around, because their presence in the hood is insane. And that's the thing I think a lot of people don't understand, is like, well, of course the crime statistics are going to reflect heavy crime, because the cops are always present, like monitoring everybody. Even when they're not doing shit, you know? And that's my stance on that. But yeah, I just wanted to get on. I've never really talked about it. I remember when Dogon and I first got together, I didn't know if I could wear like certain colors and shit, and he's like, I'm not affiliated with them, you know? But that was like my naiveness. I was like, oh, am I allowed to wear blue? Not that I really like wearing blue anyway, but you know, I never had to flag myself. I do remember, because we were rolling with LA Can. Uh-oh, the cats are fighting. And LA Can is an organization, a nonprofit, and they have t-shirts. And I remember one time Dogon's like sister or something said something to us about how we were flagging like Hoovers, which is just another area. Ooh, yes, Edgar Hoover. Here's Marley. Marley keeps getting out, and he's trying to be an outside cat. Hang on. Because the shirts were orange, and I don't know. I mean, so there's like a whole color code and shit that, you know, but like, bottom line is, I never had any issues with anybody, you know, and again, I think that's because I was respectful. I stayed in my lane. I never, you know, I remember I cussed one of the guys out once, but that was because I was pissed off at Dogon. They were making me feel dumb, but they didn't care. Yeah, they thought it was funny. Silly white girl. But anyway, I just wanted to share. We never really we had friends that lived in Compton. I went to Compton. You have to like go through Compton to go to Long Beach. And Dogon grew up in Compton, so like he took me there a couple times, just to show me around, but I never like hung out down there. But yeah, bottom line is like, it's culture. It's not your culture, you know, then just respectfully disengage or just stay in your lane. And yeah, there's not, again, the words themselves stand for, like, they're acronyms for community safety and security, and a lot of that shit started in the 80s, you know, not the gangs themselves, but like with the drugs and stuff. So I can have Dogon share more if you guys want to know. But it's pretty fascinating, but it's also just culture, you know? And growing up in white suburbia, like, there wasn't a police presence the way there is in, like, the hood. So again, crime stats are always going to be like that when we all know that, like, white people do weird shit. Okay? We know that. We know that. So, okay, have a good one.